House needs painting, grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mossy Oak and Liqua Molly.
Hello, and welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. I'm your co-host, Sarah Beth, and you are?
I'm Hank Parker. And Sarah Beth, somebody told me the other day, said, boy, I like your granddaughter on that podcast. She keeps you straight. I said, no, she tries to keep
I try, yeah. Emphasis on the try.
Yeah. There ain't no keeping me straight.
Yeah.
Not no young woman. Oh, no. Well, let's talk about, hey, I got a couple things here. I got one for those who are listening. You can't see this, but this is a current model Zebco 33. And this is a Zebco 33 that I bought for my son, Hank Jr., who just had his 51st birthday. Can you believe my oldest boy?
Yes.
You can?
Yep.
Oh, my
I
goodness,
can.
I can't. I'm
I
still in my
certainly
50s.
can. Yeah.
We're both in our 50s.
How does that work?
He's 51 and I'm 22.
50-22.
Yeah, there you go.
That's funny.
So look here. I got a Zebco 33 that is a 2005 model. It comes in a kit with all kinds of stuff, and it's a great rod, man. That's a Zebco rod combination. And this was a old 33 that is, I don't know, Hank's 51. I bought it when he was 9, so I guess it's 42 years old. Would that add up right?
Roughly, give or take, about 10 years.
No, Sarah. Give or
I'm
take.
just kidding.
Give or take a couple of days, but I think that's pretty cool. And so, if you were to canvas the, is that the right word, canvas?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you gotta.
I gotta finish it before you. Okay, let me finish.
Yeah.
All the professional fishermen on what was the one reel that you remember that you got started with?
Zebco 33.
Zebco 33. So I bought that new one, that 2025 model for my grandson Isaac. I've also got one for B and for Riley and all my young grandbabies. I've got them a Zebco 33, and so we're going to put our emphasis. Luz is owned by Rather Outdoors. Mm-hmm. That's the group, and they bought Zebco Quantum, and they did everything right. I'm very proud of what they've done. They separated the Zebco Quantum and let Quantum stand on its own, and they're using Quantum to develop the world's greatest saltwater reels, and they're really working to be the very best, and I was very impressed. I used their reels this year in Venice, Louisiana, catching big giant redfish, and had a ball, and they performed flawlessly. So I'm very excited about Quantum, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to focus on saltwater. Well, Luz needed absolutely no help in the bass market. I mean, they've got it. They've got it covered. And so where Zebco is focusing is let's build the best combos and kits. Let's build stuff for 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Let's get started. So what they're going to allow me to do at Rather's, I'm still working with Luz. They'll still be the Hank Parker signature Luz rods and reels. But they're going to allow me to put all my emphasis on Zebco this year. And so I'm excited about it because we got started with the high school guys and girls, and it's almost too late. We got to get started early. We got to get these kids on the water and experiencing fishing when they're 4 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old. If we wait till they're 15, we've waited too late.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll say I can't really speak on what it's like to not have that being brought up because I mean, I was brought up around it since I was itty bitty. So I mean, that does make it special, or I think it might kind of come to you like a little bit more naturally. Like when you're building those memories with your kid from a young age and it's a positive thing, I think they're more likely to enjoy it into adulthood because it reminds them of their childhood, Well,
and we're going to do, I've already made up my mind when I talk with the guys and the marketing people at Rather, and they say, what do you want to do? I really want to get started on promoting fishing to younger kids. And the high school deal, I'm going to stay active, and I want to keep promoting and marketing and helping these high school kids. But I want to go below that. I want to go down a couple of runs on the ladder and get them when they're 4 and 5 years old. So when they ask me what I want to do, I say I want to get Zebco rolling. I want to help get these kids combinations that are friendly to fish with. They put premium line on the reels where most little combos doesn't have that. So Zebco is still the kingpin after all these years. Well, right there's 41 years between the 33s.
I'll say that your older one still looks like it's in good shape too.
Hey, we fished with it the other day. Isaac fished with Hank Junior's. I wish I would have mine. I don't know. I've hunted and hunted and hunted. I don't know where my Zebco 33 is, but I'd love to have that.
Who knows?
Would that not be cool?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Who knows? Who knows? It'd be.
It's over in that boat building somewhere, locked away underneath.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I ever had it. I don't. I think once I married, moved away, I left it, and somebody got it, or I don't know what happened to it. But I don't think that I've had it. But it would be 62 or 3 years old, or 64. That would be so cool to have that. But anyway, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about getting these younger kids fishing. And you know what I'm going to do this year? I'm going to have a clinic. I don't know where I'm going to have it yet. Maybe Dreher Island. I'm going to do a little clinic on how to take your kids fishing.
A clinic?
Yeah, I'm going to do a little seminar.
Like a seminar, yeah.
I'm going to have giveaway. I'm going to bring in a bunch of Zebco rods and reels, and we're going to have a bunch of giveaways. And we're going to talk about how to take your kids fishing. A lot of people don't know. And there are a lot of single moms out there that don't have a clue that there's public access on places that are safe, like at Dreher Island State Park, where it's safe to go and engage in fishing with your kids. And so there are a lot of state parks. There's a lot of places you can go that a lot of single moms are not aware of, and a lot of kids that are being raised by single moms are missing out. So I want to show how you can get this combo, and it's really easy for single moms to participate. And there's places you can go that are safe and things you can do with your kids that would get them started in the sport. And it's an easy way to do it. So I'm going to do that. So we're going to work on that. We're going to have us a little, what would we call it?
A little shindig.
A little kids fishing shindig.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that. I think Dreher Island would be a good place to do it. South Carolina's got some great parks, and that's one of them. So, and it's a safe place. And they have facilities there that accommodate. So I'll check with them. But no matter where we go, we'll go somewhere, and it'll be as much for the parents or the mom or even the dad as it is for the kids. Because I tell people all the time, when you take your kids fishing, leave your stuff at home. Let it be about them. And always have them 2 rods and reels. One they can just throw out there and wind back every time they want to. And one you can let it sit still long enough for a fish to get.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it solves problems, and it's so easy to do. So we're going to do that. We're going to have a, brought to you by Zebco. It's going to be a fishing shindig.
Fishing shindig. There you go.
Kids and parents.
That'll be really cool. I think that's really neat to help raise the next generation of outdoorsmen, next generation of fishermen, because who knows, that might spark a interest in somebody's heart.
That's right. And so what we're going to talk about today, we get all that out of the way. We get that laid out. That's my emphasis this year is I'm still with Lew's. I'm still going to be fishing with Lew's, but I'm going to be promoting Zebco more than I am Lew's, because I want to get these 5-year-olds. That's my goal. We're going to start them.
Start them early.
Yeah, start them early. 3 years old. 5's a little late.
But I'm just saying that's a part, though, of preserving the sport. If you're not pouring it, that's the same way for everything. That's the same way for faith. You're raising your next generation of people to come. So, that's your next generation of the sport.
And I can see what all the mistakes I made.
Just
kidding. But that's okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about fishing in general. Things that I've learned. People write in and ask questions, and we're not going to answer those questions direct, but there's been so much said and so much replies and emails and posts and questions that I get when I go out into public that I want to try and kind of answer. You know, a lot of people say, okay, let me ask you this. Were you prepared when you talk about you borrowed $10,000 on a 90-day note and started fishing professionally? Were you prepared? No. I was prepared mentally, but I didn't have the education that I needed about how to fish grass. I didn't have the education that I needed about how to fish a jig, how to flip, how to pitch, how to get fish to react out of impulse. All that was a learn-as-you-go process. And I'm learning now, you never stop.
Right.
You never stop learning. There's always something different coming down the pike, whether it's electronically with forward-facing sonar, new lures, new ideas. I never heard of a Ned rig 20 years ago. How big a deal is that? It's just so many little things that you have to learn that make big differences.
Right.
Little things. Let me repeat that for you.
Little things that make the big differences.
Wow,
Yeah.
I like that, Sarah.
That's pretty smart. You come up with that? You read that somewhere?
No, I came up with that. And, I sat there one time and I was watching all these people at the Forest Wood Cup. And I was watching as they inspected the boats, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching all these guys. And it kind of amazed me. They were fishing at Lake Hamilton out of Hot Springs, Arkansas. And the year before, they had fished there, and they fished on Lake Washita. So they fished out of Hot Springs and weighed in there, but they fished two different lakes, Hamilton and Washita. And I'm sitting there at the boat dock, and I'm watching them go out, and they inspect every boat. And they all got the same rods and reels. Maybe a different brand, but all the same length, rods, actions. They got the same lures. I mean, they basically got the same troll motors. They basically got the same electronics.
Oh, they're hunting the same fish,
Yeah, I mean, but it's all pretty much equal. Nobody is outclassed the other one with equipment or tackle. It's a pretty level playing field. And some guys are going to catch fish, and some guys are not going to catch fish, and yet they've got the same opportunities, they got the same equipment, but it comes down to a lot of factors and a lot of evaluation and a lot of the way you approach things. And this guy may dominate this week, and then you have another one a year later, and another guy dominates that week. You know,
Right.
So here's what I learned when I've asked, were you prepared to fish nationwide? I remember like my second year at Bass, I went to Lake Powell in Arizona. Water was 600 feet deep. I didn't even know that there was any water in fresh water in the world that was 600 feet deep.
Yeah.
I had no clue. Man alive, we're talking about the Grand Canyon dammed up. 600 feet deep. And you could put your hand on a bluff wall and it'd be 300 feet deep straight under you. No, I wasn't prepared for that. I had no clue. What in the world do you do? I mean, come on. And so you learn as you go. And as these obstacles would occur, then you just sort of figure it out, you know?
As you go along.
As you go along. I heard Hank Jr. say that in a race car one time. He got sideways at about 190 miles an hour at Talladega. And I said, how did you know what to do? He said, well, I'd never been there before, so I just had to sort it out. He sorted it out and
That's
did not
funny.
hit the wall and kept racing, but he wrecked. He just didn't hit nothing.
That's so funny.
Oh, it wasn't funny to me at that time, but it was after it's over, you know. I said, well,
You laugh.
did you ever see the
Dang.
wall coming at you? He said, no, I closed my eyes.
Well, I know for a while, I'm pretty sure your stomach was in a knot because you had one son doing MMA fighting and the other one's doing NASCAR. So I'm sure the whole time you're just, kid's going to get hurt.
Life is not easy on a dad with adventurous children.
Nope.
It's
No.
not. But anyway, so we go back. And so the answer that I gave was no, I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have it sorted out. You sort it out as you go, and you figure it out, and you learn. And I think the main thing for me was I had a very determined personality, and I had a lot of self-confidence. Now, a lot of my confidence was was based on some holla abilities, but nevertheless, I felt I could do whatever I needed to do to be competitive. I remember the first time I walked in a room and there was Bill Dance and there was Roland, there was Billy Westmoreland, there was Bobby Murray, and all these great fishermen. They all had their names on their shirt and they had all these patches, and they had arrived. They were already there. They were in Bassmaster magazine every month, and they were the foundation of the sport. I was a little bit intimidated. I thought, what am I doing in this deal, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the 180-pound guy that goes in the NFL, and when he looks across the line, sees them 300-pound guys on, he says, what am I doing, you know?
Yeah.
But it all changed, and it all worked out, and it was all sorted out as we went. Let's go back to Lake Powell. Lake Powell, I had no earthly idea what to do. I really didn't. And the first day of practice, I wasted a lot of time and really got overwhelmed with all the deep water. And then I just figured out I need to stop what I'm doing, charter an airplane, and fly this place and see if I can't find some bays and creeks. And I ended up fishing in a place called Hidden Canyon. And you literally wouldn't even know it was there had I not flown the lake in an airplane and realized there were a lot of water behind that bluff wall, and the opening where you go in was very, very narrow, and it was not obvious at all. But after I flew it and I marked it on a map, and I went up there, I thought, this can't be it. And when I went in, sure enough, it opened up. And then I started putting things together. It's like a puzzle, you know. You start with the corners and you start working it out. And you start putting things together. Ended up, I finished 9th in that tournament. I caught the big fish. I tied with Bo Dowden, world champion, Hall of Famer Bo Dowden. I tied with Bo for big fish, 7 pound 1 ounce, which was a giant bass for Arizona in that time frame, 1979. So it was pretty cool. You remember 1979?
No, it just catches me
She
off
told
guard.
me one time, I said something, she said, oh, Lord, that was in the olden times.
No,
that was
you
back
know,
in
we
the
call
90s.
that, no, we call that the late 1900s.
Oh, that was in the olden days. But anyway, back in the olden days, I figured it out. I kind of sorted it out, got a top 10 finish and won a Ranger boat. And Bo Dowden and I split the boat. He had a dealership. He went back and sold the boat, and I got me $3,000. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
It sounds pretty good. I like to get $3,000.
Yeah, life is different nowadays. You get $200,000. I mean, it's crazy. Price of a boat. The boat then, you know, we didn't have a motor on it. It was just a boat. So things are a lot more expensive today. But,
Inflation.
but it was all relevant. I mean, you know.
Right.
At that time, I think minimum wage was about $2
Like
an hour.
$2.
So that's
Yeah,
a lot.
that's what I get paid.
Yeah, well, hey, and you're overpaid a lot. So that's a story. That's another story. That's a story for another day.
Yeah. Hey, we're not going to put on Hank Parker on the hot seat.
Okay, so now we're talking about sorting things out as we go. So we're all, you know, Bassmaster Magazine had this big article on how to set a hook on a plastic worm, and you break the boat seat. You try to wind down, and you get the stiffest rod you can and jerk as hard as you can. And then Lou Childers, the founder of Lew's, he came up with speed. Everything is speed. So today when you see speed spool, speed stick, all that originated with Lou Childers. And Lou said, you guys got this whole thing wrong. Y'all are winding down and you're trying to use all this power and you're jerking as hard as you can jerk. That's not what generates a lot of pressure at the end. You're trying to get 5 pounds of pressure at that hook to go through that fish's mouth. That's not the way to do it. So he hooked up a device, a scale that he could anchor down in the bottom of a swimming pool, and we could all get back 35 feet and set the hook. And we were generating 3 and 4 pounds. And he set up there, and we're all just winding down, and big, strong guys jerking as hard as we can jerk. And Lou's over there like cracking a whip. And he's generating 8 and 9 pounds. He's doubling what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we got all these big, stiff rods that weigh a ton, and we're winding down. He's got these little old thin pistol grip rods, and he's just sitting there cracking a whip. And he's putting 8, 9 pounds on the scales, and we're putting 4 and 5. So pretty amazing what you learn. You sort it out as you go. So the whole thing for me, from the time that I took that Nestea plunge and borrowed all that money and went out there and tried to compete and make a living, I learned as I went. And I picked up. And I think it's the same today. I really do. I think people that are out there, there's so much innovation. There's so much you don't know. I mean, if you live in a certain geographical area, and I fish Santee, and I fish Lake Murray, and I fish Lake Wateree, and I fish Lake Wiley, and Lake Norman. Lake Norman was a deep lake, you know, and I went over to Hartwell. Wow, Hartwell's a deep lake. I mean, we're talking 100 foot of water.
Right.
I grew up on Lake Wiley. The deepest water in Lake Wiley is 70 feet or so. And now I'm over here going to Lake Powell in Arizona. It's 600 plus feet deep. So you can't know those things until you put yourself in that situation.
Right.
You got to go there. And so you sort it out as you go. And it's a learning process. So then I go and I fish with Dave Glebe. And Dave was a protege of D. Thomas. D. Thomas came up with a flipping technique. And D called it tule dipping, and they named it flipping because you literally flip with your wrist, and you can take a 7.5 foot, 8 foot rod is what D liked, and D was the master. I mean, he was the master. And man, they could put a lure, they could take a little jig or a little crawfish type bait and put it in a teacup at 50 feet away. I could not do that. That was so intimidating. When I watched Glebe put a cigarette pack in a swimming pool, and of course it would float and move. And he could flip that lure and make it land on that cigarette pack. And it'd float over here and it'd be further away. He'd still make that lure land on that cigarette pack. And it would float closer to us and he'd flip it and put it on that cigarette pack. And I'm thinking, that is impossible. How can he do that?
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit intimidating.
Technique, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a whole different technique. Well, but with the precision of that flipping technique as far as placing a bait, there were a lot more to it. And I started to learn. And so I saw that for the first time in 1976. That was the first time I ever saw that, the flipping technique. I knew D had won the tournament at Bull Shoals.
Yeah.
I knew D had won the tournament flipping, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand it until I watched Dave Glebe put on a demonstration that just intimidated and blew me away. But I saw the value in it.
Right.
And I saw a need. And so I got a flipping stick and I started flipping. I started practicing. 3 years later, I won the Bassmaster Classic flipping.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that neat?
That is neat.
So was I ready? No. Did I get ready? Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
You prepared.
Yes. So now here we go today. Now here's the first thing that you got to do to improve. And I tell people this about salvation. There's so many people that don't realize they're lost.
Right.
They're good people. I never had that problem. I was not a good person, so I didn't have that problem. But a lot of people do. A lot of people are really good people, and they compare themselves with others, and they don't see themselves as lost.
Well, ironically, a lot of lost people are in church. It's usually the people that grew up in church and, you know, my grandma is a Christian, so I'm good. That type of mentality.
Yeah, but you overlook reality. You overlook. And so in order to improve, you got to see a need. And so the one thing that I was able to do, that when I saw Glebe, I saw my lack of ability, and I saw where that method would be beneficial to fishing. Now, I didn't understand it all at the time, but I could see putting that bait in that little bitty spot underneath that willow tree or under that boat dock or by this bush. I saw the value in that. And so I started learning how to flip. It wasn't until actually Glebe again. Dave Glebe won a tournament at Lake Okeechobee under extreme adverse cold conditions. Okeechobee is about 90 miles from Miami, so it's in a very tropical part of Florida. Doesn't get cold there very often. And we were there in the month of February, and they had a severe cold front. I think it's one of the few times that the temperature got down to freezing that far south. Wow. And so the water temperature plummeted, and there weren't very many fish caught. And the first day I was in the first flight, I led the tournament with like 13 pounds. And Dave Glebe was in the third flight. And I think Roland came in the second flight, and Roland had like 16 pounds. So Roland's leading it, and I'm third. And here comes David Glebe in with over 30 pounds. Oh, wow. My goodness, how is that possible? How is that possible? He doubled. I mean, it just blew us away. To make a long story short, he went on to win that tournament with like 95 pounds, 12 ounces. And I think Roland finished second with like 40 pounds, 40 couple pounds. So he blew us away. And I finished like fifth or sixth in that tournament with less than 30 pounds. So he tripled me in fifth place. Wow. So how does that happen? Now you start thinking, what took place there? And then you start thinking, okay, what happened with Glebe and gave him the ability to catch those fish? Under that severe cold front condition, those fish just shut down. They got in that grass, and they just buried up in that grass, and they just sat there. No amount of enticing you could do on the outside of those grass beds to get that fish to leave the comfort of being locked down in that tight grass to come and get that bait outside. Mm-hmm. That was our whole method of fishing. That was the only thing that I understood at that time, was you made a lure look realistic and you enticed that fish in coming to get that bait. Glebe, however, got right on top of those grass piles and flipped that bait and made it land on those fish's nose. He would just get on a grass bed and just pick it apart. He would literally take a 1.5 ounce weight and punch it through the pepper grass and the hydrilla and just keep punching. And he wouldn't punch a foot apart. He would punch 6 inches apart, where he would just literally pick that grass bed apart. So if this grass bed, let's just say this grass bed is 25 acres, he'd spend 2 hours on there punching every 6 inches. And he'd drop that thing on their nose, and it was like issuing them an ultimatum. Either you move out of here or you stand up and fight. And so a fish he can react to a bait out of impulse. He wasn't at all in a position to ambush prey. That wasn't even on his mind. Right. But when you drop that bait on his nose, he didn't have any choice but to react to it. So now, instead of enticing fish to bite a lure, we're getting fish to react to a bait out of impulse. Wow. Changed everything for Hank Parker. Changed everything. That is the day when I left Lake Okeechobee after Glebe just wore us out. That is the days the wheels in my mind started to turn, and I became a whole different fisherman. And everything changed for me. I started taking spinner baits, and I would make them more weedless, and I would put smaller blades on heavier heads where I could just run that thing and drop it on their nose and get them to react out of impulse like Glebe did under those cold front conditions. Right. And it changed everything for me. So there's 2 ways to catch a fish. You can get them to bite by enticing them, making it look so real that they can't resist it, or you can get them to react to your bait out of impulse. And sometimes it's a cross between the two, depends on the conditions. Right. And so I learned as I went. And I picked up, okay, so now here we are. We're in the forward-facing sonar days where it's shuffled the cards. It's rearranged everything. Now people are taking little bald head jigs and putting a minnow on it and getting out in 100 foot of water and catching fish suspended and watching them come and hit the. But hold on. I've admitted openly that I have tried to get good with forward-facing sonar. I really have. I've accepted it as a challenge. Mm-hmm. And I have not accomplished that as of yet. I haven't quit. I haven't given up. But I have to be honest. And I think that that's how you get better at something, when you're honest with yourself and admit, hey, I can't do that, but I'm going to.
Right.
You know, when I went fishing with Andy Montgomery, and he showed me the right rod, the right reel, and explained to me how he skipped that bait, everything changed for me. So I learned that. And I was a little bit intimidated by that. And I'm with Andy, and Andy Montgomery could put that thing anywhere. If he dreamt it needed to be there, he could put it there.
Right.
So he taught me how. Well, I think I was teachable because I admitted that I couldn't do it.
Right. Well, if you can't admit that you can't do something, you're not going to be open to learn how to do it.
That's where the problem lies with forward-facing sonar, with some of the older people that automatically reject it without really, really looking into it.
It's pride. It's pride because they don't want to admit that they don't know, or that they struggle to pick something up, so it makes them feel less than.
I don't know totally if pride's the right word, and you may be right, and that may be the case with some people.
It's an assumption. It's not true for everybody, but I think some people.
I think it's intimidating, just like flipping and David Glebe putting that bait on that dadgum cigarette pack floating in that pond. I couldn't do that. That was intimidating. And they said, you want to try that? No, I don't want to try that in front of all my peers. Are you crazy?
Hey, man, I hurt my wrist last week.
Oh, yeah, my shoulder's killing me. I fell off. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to set out on this one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did,
that's
too.
So
no, I'm not going to make a fool out of myself. But, hey, I'm going home.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get me one.
And I'm going to start trying.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to
so
practice before I get embarrassed. Okay, so that's what I did. But I knew that I didn't have the ability to do that, but I wanted to learn. Mm-hmm. And 3 years later, I won the Bassmaster Classic using the technique that D. Thomas showed Dave Glebe, that Dave Glebe showed me.
Yeah.
But it was a lot more than that.
Right.
It was learning and understanding how those fish were caught at Okeechobee that changed everything. Those fish were not biting. Those fish were not chasing bait. Those fish were not interested in chasing bait. Mm-hmm. Those fish were buried up in that grass under that cold front condition, but they bit when I thought they would never bite. They bit because he dropped it right on their nose and issued that ultimatum, and they reacted to it out of impulse.
Right, okay.
So it changed everything. In the Bassmaster Classic in '79, when I won, those fish were 15 feet deep in the brush pile. I had ran spinner baits all around them and never got a bite. I turned right around. I said, there's got to be fish here. There's bait here. It is just the most beautiful water. I was on Lake Texoma, and I just think there's fish here. So I just started taking my time. I talked to Forrest Wood, and Forrest had 2 fish, and he'd caught them flipping. And I'm thinking, I got to get that flipping stick, and I got to figure something out. And after about 2 hours, I figured out those fish were on the deep ends of the creek in the lay-down brush, 15 feet deep.
Wow.
So you had to drop that plastic worm down through that brush 15 feet deep and just take your time just barely jiggling that worm, and then he'd hit it. And I ended up winning the Classic. And it was because what I learned from Dave Glebe under adverse conditions at Lake Okeechobee 3 years earlier, and put it together. So you sort it out as you go. Okay, now where are we today? We're at a crossroads way bigger than flipping. Although I will tell you, for me, learning to catch fish out of impulse opposed to enticement was a major, major change in my fishing approach. It was a major change for everything that I did. I started thinking completely different than I had thought before. And so now, that's what you're faced with today with all the technology, with all the information. I used to know places on Lake Wiley that very few people knew. I got to fish with a guy named Larry Presley, who was incredible. He taught me so much. And he just figured out these places, and nobody knew them. Well, then Larry never used a depth finder ever. So I got to using a depth finder, and I really got to figuring them out. And I could go out there and catch fish when literally very few other people, Poss Drum, who was a friend of mine, he could catch them. Doug Brogdon, Larry Pearson, there was a couple of guys they could catch them. but they were the few. I mean, I could catch them probably better than anybody if I'm without bragging. I mean, I was somebody. I had it figured out. And so to be able to do that is pretty special. And when you, all of a sudden, everybody comes out with a map. Golly bum, they had a BASS tournament there, and I had all these spots nobody knew about. Guess what? They all figured it out in 2 days. I had all these milk run I was going to make, and when I left my first place going to my second place, there was somebody already sitting there.
Wow.
How'd they figure that out? Mm-hmm. Man, they took maps and electronics, and they knew every place that I knew. Well, that was a big shock to me, and that was in 1982. That was in 1982. And it blew my mind how good these guys were at reading maps, using electronics, figuring out all these high spots and hills and points and mussel beds that are in the lake that produce fish, and they figured it out. So that helped me, once I learned that could be done, that helped me go to other lakes and do what they did to me on Lake Wiley. Mm-hmm. So you learn as you go. So now we're faced with a whole different method. Nothing like we've ever seen before is watching a fish on a screen live come after a bait. And so, again, I'm going to circle back to what I'd said earlier. Mm-hmm. I've really tried to get good at it.
Right.
And I have not been able to accomplish that. So I fish with all these different people, and they've been so kind to me to take me and show me. And I started fishing with people that were showing me 3 or 4 years ago. And I see how it's changed. I fished with a guy the other day. He caught them really good, like on Tuesday. And he called me and said, "Man, I burned them. You want to go with me?" And I said, "Yes, I want to see." So I'm catching 40, 45 feet deep. I'm catching them under bait balls, and I'm catching them on a certain little head, and I'm fishing it a certain little way. And so I went with him. We did not catch them. And he was blown away. He said, "Well, there's a fish," and they wouldn't bite it. He said, "Man, I could wind this thing by them on Tuesday, and they'd take the rod out of my hand." Mm-hmm. And now they're turning and going the other way.
Right.
So then I go fish with a guy over at Clark's Hill, and this kid is so good, and he's burning it by him. And so he's throwing that bait out there. He's got on a big old heavy head, and he's winding it, man, 90 miles an hour, and they hit. You can't wind it fast enough. He said, no, man, you got to have an 8-to-1 gear ratio. I said,
what does that mean?
Very fast.
Yeah, okay.
And when you turn the handle, it takes 8 times more line in. And so, boom, he's burning it by them, and they're biting it. And he said, if you let them look at it, they will not bite it. Ooh, wait a minute. Now are we talking the same thing? Are we talking about getting them to react to a bait out of impulse or enticement? The whole time we've been thinking about forward-facing sonar, we've been thinking about enticing them into biting it, dropping that little minnow right there and making it look so delicate and so beautiful, like a little after-dinner mint, and he's going to come up there and bite it. Now, all of a sudden, they're not biting it. You got to burn it by them. And he had all these trick lures. I didn't have any of them. The guy I fished with at Clark Hill, he caught like 40. Mm-hmm. I didn't catch but 2. And I didn't get them in the boat. I hung 2. And he had all these trick baits. He had weighted hooks. He had all these things that he was doing and all these fast. So now, forward-facing sonar is different. It's not about putting a little minnow down there and putting it right there, and they bite it every time you put it in front of them. Now they've wised up. Mm-hmm. All those fish that we've been talking about out there in 100 foot of water that are suspended, they've wised up. And these kids that are catching them are realizing that they have to work and do things different to catch them. So people want to say, "Oh, them kids ain't doing nothing but playing a video game. That's not fishing." Be careful about that, because you're never going to get there if that's your attitude. You're never going to be good at it. You're never going to figure out how to use it. Some people say, "Well, I don't want to learn how." Okay, I'm good with that. I do. I don't like, people say, "Well, I don't like to fish a topwater bait. I don't like to fish a Carolina rig. I don't like to fish a jig and spoon. I don't like to throw a jig. I don't like to flip. I don't like to pitch. I don't like to do that. I like to do it all. There is nothing that I don't like if it'll catch a fish.
Right.
I don't like being limited. That's what I don't like. You could be that way in playing golf. So I hate a driver. I hate a 4-iron. I'm just going to take a putter. Mm-hmm. I like to putt. You're going to have a hard time getting to the green from the tee if all you do is putt. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a while.
It's going to take you a minute.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
So that's the same thing with fishing, man. Why limit yourself? I want to be able to do it all. So I'm trying really, really hard to learn this forward-facing sonar, and I'm not good at it. But just in the period of time that I've dedicated myself to trying to get better, the cards have been shuffled. These fish do not act the same as they did when it started. So it's coming full circle. You better know enough about the kid at Clark Hill showed me, man, you got to be versatile, and you got to get these fish to react to this bait out of impulse. You got to burn it by them. If you let them look at it and see, they're not going to bite it. You got to hustle. So they're figuring things out, and things are coming full circle. So the whole thing the point that I wanted to make is, are you prepared to go fishing today? Because today's different than yesterday. And the truth of the matter is, if you're not open-minded, if you're not willing to try different methods, different techniques, different lures, different approach, different presentations, you're probably not going to be successful. And as time goes on and more pressure is put on lakes, fish get more difficult to catch. So you've got to be able to be flexible, and you've got to think outside of the box in many situations to be able to offer them something new, something that they're not acclimated to, something that they're not afraid of, to get them to bite. So it's a constant. People ask to get in my boat and they get blown away. What in the world are you doing with 14 rods and reels laid out? I need them all. I got all these different things. And when I come up to a piece of structure, if they don't bite this, sometimes I do this, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'm looking for this, and over here I want this bait, and over here I want that bait, and boom, 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 boom. It is a lot to being consistent and catching fish. And that is the one thing that in my career that I'm the most proud of. I'm very proud of winning the Grand Slam. I'm glad I won the Classics. All that's important. But the one thing, I finished in the money 76% of the time. And that is just in BASS. If you take national bass and American bass, I finished in the money 81 or 82% of the time. And a lot of that was motivated by poverty because I had to pay that bank note.
Yeah.
But being versatile is the answer to being consistent. And that's why I always admired Bobby Murray as a tournament fisherman. Bobby Murray could catch them deep, shallow, hot, cold, clear, muddy. It didn't matter. And Bobby had this outlook that somebody's going to win this tournament, might as well be me.
Right.
And I'm not going to look to the next tournament. I'm going to look at this one, and I'm going to do everything that I can. And so I always admired him, and I tried to model myself with the same approach that he took. And so the whole sum of the whole deal is things have come almost full circle. Maybe when they first started, and I wasn't good enough at it to be an expert, so I can't honestly say, but from what I've been told, it was pretty easy. If you could read that forward facing and look at that screen and put that bait out there and see your bait, and you got it close to them, they'd pretty much bite it. Mm-hmm. Now it's not like that at all. There's days like I went with a guy that's super good with it just the other day that caught them on Tuesday, and we never caught a one on Friday. And we put it in front of their nose. Oh, we had them follow it. We had a few bump it, but we didn't catch any. So the things are coming full circle. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to do some different enticement. You're going to have to change your bait up a lot. You're going to have to put lead weight on the hooks where you can fish it faster, and all the tricks that the guy showed me at Clark's Hill. So we're coming full circle. This whole thing is the same playing field If you don't adapt and you don't learn new methods and new techniques, you're going to get left behind.
Right.
And I think that's pretty interesting. So to summarize where I'm at today, I've never stopped learning. And to be honest, to be completely honest, people say, boy, I wish you wouldn't have quit when you did. I did. I quit when I was 36 years old when I retired. And I had some good years left. People say, I bet you could go back and compete today. No, I couldn't. No, these kids are good. They blow me away. I can still catch fish. I still have fun. And I'm going to have to be completely honest. I've dedicated myself to trying to learn to be good with forward-facing sonar now for 3 years. And to be completely honest, I don't enjoy it as much as I do fishing the traditional methods that I grew up and fishing the way I learned to fish and the way I competed.
Right.
I still enjoy that more. So the other day, I went fishing and I didn't even pay any attention to it. I just went and fished my normal October fall pattern, and I caught the fire out of them.
Wow.
I caught more fish than I have caught in 20 trips. And I just went back to old school. I took square bills. I took some arc square bills, which I love that arc square bill. And I got back in the trees in the back of the pockets. I found the bait. I found all the big blue herring coming out of the coves when I was running in. I knew the bait would be there, and I took that square bill and I ran it through those treetops. And then I'd be in the middle of the channel and I'd see one fish chase a shad, and I'd throw a little deep diving crankbait and hammer them. I had so much fun. And I did have the forward-facing sonar on, and I saw a few of them, but I didn't even throw at them. I just did what I traditionally did, and I enjoyed that so much. So the next time I go, but I still want to get good with the forward-facing sonar, and I still want to learn. I don't want to be inhibited by any technique, and I don't want to cop out by saying I can't do that.
Right.
That makes sense?
That makes total sense to me.
Well, it is so much fun. Fishing is a learning process, and remember, if you've never heard that before, there's two ways to catch fish. You can catch him out of impulse by putting it on his nose, or you can entice it by making it look so good.
Amen. And hey, we like to give a shout out to our sponsors, Mossy Oak Properties, Mossy Oak Native Nurseries, and Mossy Oak
Biologic.
That one gets me
Biologic.
every time.
That's
I know
the
you
seed.
know all about that.
Oh, I love Biologic.
I keep wanting to call it biometric. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Biologic, and I love it. It's an awesome seed, and I've got some planted, and I'm praying for rain because even Mossy Oak Biologic has to have some rain.
Right, and we can't forget our last sponsor, Liqui Moly. They are an awesome product. You can go check them out on their website. You can type in any make and model of your motor, and it'll tell you exactly what kind of oil or cleaner you might need.
That's pretty good. Additives. They got a lot of stuff. Moly is an incredible product. So go look them up on the web, Liqui Moly.
All the links to our sponsors and all of our personal links will be down in the description below. Make sure you go check them out. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys next week.
You're going to leave them, are you, Sarah Beth? Well, I guess if you're going to leave them, I might as well leave them because I've had so many people say, if Sarah Beth's not on there, I'm not going to watch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you're leaving, I guess I'll leave. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.